It's been quite a month yet.
Weeks. Yeah, it's been a couple of weeks. I took an L away.
It's been a bit rough.
Yeah, it's been bad.
I will say that I'm a little more reassured after the last DOJ meeting, but the long and short of it is we, out of the blue, a bunch of new penal charges came into play, and we had to explain to the justices that they do not have the constitutional ability to just come up with new laws as they see fit. And who's to say, like, for example, laptops became illegal, G6 cards became illegal, all this kind of stuff. And we're like, that's not your role, right? Like, you're the mechanism by which you add those things, but things have to be legislated. Like, at minimum, we need to be talking about it by all authorities. Otherwise, you're sort of circumventing all legislation by just, like, saying this is illegal, that's illegal, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't make any sense. Like, it doesn't even pass the common sense threshold. So,
I mean, wasn't that the whole point of the process?
Exactly. Yes. So I think the problem is an education one, not a matter of anything else.
This panel of justices is the panel that engaged with you with the process. They should understand the process, right?
Correct. But the thing is, like, we added a line. We kept the line in the judicial powers where they are the ones that change penal stuff. But I think they missed the mark on that. The legislation is still scoped to the Constitution. So, and as the last meeting went a bit better, I was a little shocked, transparently, over some of Faulkner's takes. I thought he was a lot more intelligent than he really is. Like, he wasn't able to follow basic. Oh, you could see actually, the notes are on that DOJ email chain. From the meeting. But
I think the most wild statement was, I followed the legislative process, but I'm not following the legislation process. I don't even know what that means.
Yeah, it's
I mean, even if you wanted to argue that the penal code came in with the case in common law, it would still need to be posted to the city hall and enacted immediately, right? Like, even in the, I'm just reading the proposal and approval process. But, like, it should, like, assuming the penal code is part of the legislative body, which it is inherently, right? It should still go through the full process, which, you know, allows some public scrutiny.
Of course. Well, the unfortunate, and this is the thing that makes me, if I'm going to be transparent, as me pretty much giving up, to a degree, right? Is this is like we're about to hit 8 months of this kind of headache where there's not even a basic understanding of what the judicial branch is inherently about, right? And
I think this is an issue that the wider United States is facing, right? I think we've talked about it before. There's a lot of activists.
I literally brought that up during the thing. I was like, this is akin to, like, Trump just filing a bunch of executive orders and thinking it's all right. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, but I would argue that it's actually worse because, how do I put this? Yes, there are some parallels, but the thing is, like, still, like, when those executive orders are filed, they're still able to be scrutinized by Congress, and they're being able to be scrutinized by the DOJ, which they are actively. But that's not necessarily the case here, because our mechanisms assume that we don't get this far. Our primary mechanism is impeachment, and the reality is no one wants to do that, right? It's a lot of work.
Like the nuclear option, right? Yeah, there's a lot of work on it. And also, the reality is the impeachment process itself is set up so that they are then regulating themselves anyway, right? The justices have to sit in on an impeachment of the justices who they've already unanimously voted into power themselves anyway. It's a flawed system. It's flawed.
It is. I will say, though, that I think part of it is not a consequence of the individuals. It's a consequence of a lack of a chief justice. And while I believe that the lack of a Chief Justice makes sense if all the justices were relatively available. But the reality is there's only 2 that are relatively available. And the rest are just nodding yes to everything.
Well, this is the same issue that they had before, right? When Angel was ostensibly in charge. The Chief Justice inherently becomes whoever's around the most. Not the most competent, not the most capable, not the longest serving with tenure or whatever, and like a track record. Just whoever's around the most, lays the path.
Well, and then the rest just become the echo chamber, right? So they get this feeling of like this. We must be in the right because our peers are saying, our peers that we brought in are saying we're right. But
also the peers that were brought in who would hold the line, right? That was the major part of why they were hired. All of them. They were all hired because they would toe the line and stay in line and, maintain, it's a thin blue line in the DOJ.
That's the scary shit about it. I will let you in on another thing is that during that meeting, and this is the main principled bit where I genuinely think without a reform in the DOJ, we're fucked. Like San Andreas is fucked. Is that there is for some delusioned idea that the DOJ should not be a neutral party, but rather be an extension of law enforcement.
Which is inherently impeachable. Because
yes. Yes.
No.
They in there, and I didn't challenge these things primarily because it's like it's so philosophically like out of touch that it would just be a massive argument, right? No one's going to change their mind on it. Was that, well, we're afraid that they actually made the argument that they need to be making these charges, and they made these charges and don't want public scrutiny because people are going to vote against it. And I'm like, that's a hypothetical, first and foremost. And number 2, that's not your fucking job.
No. And here's the thing. Look, if you want to act like a politician, then do some politics, right?
Yeah, run for mayor.
Not only that, if you've got to put forward right? For example, Hockun, right? There's an active piece of litigation going on the docket where they're appealing that Hockun decision I made weeks ago. Is what it is. Fine. Regardless. That day I wrote Hockun case law. It got put to one side for whatever reason. But you can politically frame things in a way that I could get that voted on and get that past the people of San Andreas. I don't write Hockun legislation. I write affirmative defense legislation. I write legislation that allows people to offer an affirmative defense, to shift the burden of proof, but to provide defense attorneys with a way of getting themselves out of shit when it looks like all hope is lost, right? So you do it in such a way, you frame it in such a way that the argument is, anybody out there, if you're caught in a jam and it doesn't look like you've got a way, you've now got a way to switch the burden of proof, yes, but prove yourself innocent and get yourself out when all hope is lost, right? Give people that Hail Mary pass. And it's the same thing because, inherently an affirmative defense may look bad for the defense initially, but I've seen it work. I've had it work as a defense attorney. I've worked those cases, won those cases.
Absolutely.
You can make it a good thing for the average citizen in San Andreas. It doesn't have to be a bad thing. But it's still, people don't want to engage on those levels.
But it needs to. And I think without those sort of things in place, the entire system will remain flawed. Every time we go into that room, I feel like someone with a brain. I genuinely believe that it requires the governor coming in and just like restating what he stated and making all of them be present for it. Because we should not be facing a separate political party in that room.
No.
And I don't give a shit what they personally want. This is not their. I said this earlier when shit was heated, is that they have no right. With all due respect to them, I was voted in, Samahead was voted in, Mumbles was voted in. They were simply appointed by Angel. That's it. And that doesn't, and each other, right? And this is not to like throw like Angel under the bus. But the point is, it's an unelected position that is not like is not backed by anything really. No tenure, no experience, no attendance. Why would anyone respect their opinion fundamentally? Right? It's the equivalent to the heir of like the
last time we talked, Nino, I was talking about, you know, how dejected I was feeling about things, right? And like, let's be real. I don't need to say names, but there are people who've gone from getting a bar license to be made a justice within 3 months, right?
Yeah.
I've known lawyers take longer to get their bar license.
Yeah.
Never mind, go like the idea that you can be in charge and be the legal authority and be in a position that is basically immutable within 3 months is deranged and not safe and
it's not.
Terrifying.
Yep.
Well, I'll tell you what we want to do. Is that we want a maximum number of justices. Number two, we actually want that every 3 months, 2 of those justices, the longest tenured, actually have to step down and enter into a vote that is one that is balanced in Los Santos County and one that is balanced in Blaine County. Like, in other words, like there would be a mayoral Wade vote alongside a public facing vote, with the requirement for justice being having been in the DOJ as a magistrate plus for X amount of time. And
I mean, I don't disagree. I think that, and I think some serious internal. Here's the thing: I don't understand why they're working on the penal code when we don't have like internal guidelines for training judges yet or anything like that. I think
who fucking knows? They literally,
horse, you know?
brother, they literally have been telling us that they're doing this to like the shit that we have to hear. It actually blows my mind. Because it only came to light that I was on somewhat of an impression that this was like a federal level like ask. It's not. I asked that question directly 2 weeks back, and that's what was shocking. Why is the DOJ seemingly weighing in on the price of? Why is it that marshals and law enforcement are like, yo, people have too much money, and they go and change it? Why are they saying, we believe, I'll give you an example, that laptops are being used to hack the back of Polito? Where's the evidence? What does the laptop look like? Who did the surveillance?
I have no idea about any of that stuff.
Right. How do we know it's not someone's cousin said some shit? You know what I mean? And I say that very unashamedly, because you know that is something that happens in the city, right? Like people joke and shit. But jokes and shit aren't evidence.
To me yesterday, a lawyer called me and we were talking, and they were complaining about a judge making a ruling based on the freshness of DNA.
Oh,
like,
my God!
in
yeah.
relation to somebody had told them that, you know, it had to happen. I'm like, what? They had an expert, you know, witness, a DNA expert who came in and like, no, the judge just knew this, and I'm like, I didn't understand that.
That is correct. I was at. Wait, hold on. I don't know if I was at the trial. Okay, I was at the trial. Yeah, thank you, Chad. Yeah, I heard that at the end. I walked in towards the end of it. Couldn't remember whether I was dreaming or not.
But it's the same context, right? So it's these expert testimony versions of evidence that aren't using expert testimony. I don't understand that. Like, like if you want to, I don't know, push an investigation into this stuff via the marshals, and then get, you know, records that can be made publicly available, so we can all see, you know, the results of this, and then we can have a discussion and a vote. Like, that sounds fantastic. But doing the first part of that, none of the rest, I don't know.
Yeah, I feel bad for them to a degree, right? number one, Arcadia and Faulkner, not bad people, but they're babies. You know what I mean? Like, not babies like they're crying, but like they're new, right? You know what I mean? They haven't been around very long. No. So it's hard. That's going to be challenging. And where the fuck are their peers, right? One of the biggest reasons why this problem happened, and we realize it because we spent a lot of time trying to figure out what the fuck happened, right? Actually playing devil's advocate, is because Weiss sat in that room and told us on behalf of the DOJ that they needed this clause in case of an emergency where we needed to put a penal code up, like a fucking nuclear bomb or some shit, right? But apparently he didn't tell the others, right? Now, can I hold Arcadia and Faulkner to it? No. But what it screams at is like they need a representative that can make official documents. Otherwise, you know, why else are we being pedantic all the time with the writing? Because all it takes is us not knowing what the fuck they're talking about behind the scenes and them not digesting what we're like. We don't answer to them. You know what I mean?
I don't understand that argument, right? I don't understand why they need the ability to add a law immediately. Because even if they did, right, okay, somebody smuggles a nuke and we don't have any nuke charges, right?
Yeah.
Ex post facto means that first person getting away anyway.
True.
Like, so then you've got the time to put in one before the second nuke gets here, right?
It's this simple. It's babies trying to, you know, tell folks who've been around how things should be without any context of how shit goes one way or another. You know what I mean?
You had that trial, right? The speedy weapons bench trial where they pushed weapons trafficking, right? We did not have a weapons manufacturing charge. Could not find him guilty of weapons trafficking. Also couldn't find him guilty of a charge we didn't have. Speedy ended up basically walking. And then secondarily, we got
that was a good fucking trial
to fix it, right? That's what I'm saying. But that's the way the system's meant to work.
I am not comfortable to practice law under this DOJ. You know, based on the shit I've heard in that room, is like they're genuinely sucking cop dick, right? Like it's crazy. It's like I'm speaking to the district attorney and not the DOJ. That's a good way.
But this is the thing, right? They're inherently, because they have tied themselves so tightly into the marshals, right, to the point where they feel empowered to get involved with the marshalship. They feel like they're a part of the law enforcement agency.
No, and because they should be determining RSPC beyond a reasonable doubt. Do they need an affirmative defense? What is this law intended for? Does it need to be case law? It's not that hard. Why are they doing this other shit? Who the fuck is telling them to do it? It's actually insane.
I mean, it's because it's training, right? It's like you said, it's training. They were trained in a DOJ where Angel was hired by Crane as a baby judge and then put into a position where Angel was also a prosecutor judge, whatever the fuck that's meant to mean, right? But it inherently broke neutrality at that moment.
Right.
The neutrality of the Department of Justice was broken by Crane by appointing Angel to that position. And then they were all trained under Angel, who was never trained in neutrality. That's the issue, Nino. It was broken from the ground up.
You know how we don't have that's a big part of it. I mean, it's good that we're finally seeing case law, you know? Thank fucking God. But
I mean, I've been writing it for months. It just gets ignored.
What? What do you mean?
So it's the Snow case, the Amika Rose case. I wrote exigent circumstance and hot pursuit. Where's that?
Have you asked?
Yeah, multiple times.
Bro, just... I want to explain why I had to give up, right? Because I realized my office has literally had to fight to hold the wall of the Constitution.
Oh, yeah.
Right? We have barely been able to express the will of the people. What happens when I'm gone? What happens when Michael's gone? We're going to end up like... I mean, Mumble's been great. But he's not fighting that fight. Right?
No.
Someone else gets this... They're not going to know, like, whether they're getting bamboozled or not.
I'm terrified for whoever the next mayor is going to be, because the thing is, you're a qualified attorney, which helps, right? But B, you surrounded yourself with also intelligent people who will pick up the things you miss. The next person's going to come in solo dolo and have to find a cabinet. And that first 2 months is going to be a shit show.
These judges should be fucking lucky that they haven't been mag dumped over the last nine months. You know what I mean?
Like the irony is that we're holding the wall of the Constitution that they drafted. That's the crazy part.
Well, they didn't draft it. Bailey did, and then they took credit.
The entity, right? The DOJ drafted this, and we are holding the wall. We are protecting their Constitution. Crazy.
The storm shit like the 18 months.
Why do oligarchs need a constitution?
That's a great question.
I raised a point during the last DOJ meeting. I'm like, we're entering into the authoritarian times here with the way you guys are moving. And I heard, oh, Nino. And I'm like, I don't think you know what authoritarian means. I wouldn't be reacting that way.
But they're doing it for the will of the people without the will of the people. You know, it's one of those things.
Yeah. Yeah, it needs I think we should absolutely move forward with those ideas. I think we're going to be doing it through I am going to, if I can muster the energy, you know what I mean? That's the reality, because there is a part of me where it's like I've already given so much. I don't know how much more I have in me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, we all hit that point, right? You try day after day after day, and eventually, if people aren't open to it, they aren't open to it.
I could run for senator as an oversight to the branches and a consigliere to the governor.
Medimats give more old man.
With no inherent powers, but more for guidance.
As long as you don't take a place on the crosswalk at the prison, shooting at prisoners, I wouldn't have many issues.
Oh, no, I'm not interested in any of that. There's someone who could come in and be like, listen, bitch, that ain't your fucking role. Read the goddamn Constitution. And then I just make a slapping noise. And sit down. I mean, why the fuck not? You know what I mean? Like, we can always dream, right? I just don't want to see it go to shit. That's the scary fucking thing, bro. Like,
I think without systemic reform of some kind, whether that's further oversight or systemic reform,
it's not a bad idea, to be honest. I might do it just for the memes.
Input, like any form of democratic input. Like, I think we're in trouble. I do think we're in trouble.
I agree.
I think we're already there.
I agree.
Yep. So Hallow was made to step down. Now, don't get me wrong. Hallow hasn't been around, but he was also the most bullied with the conversations with the governor. So for him to be threatened with being hit with dereliction while two others sit there under very almost equal amounts of dereliction, I find that very odd, right? He was the only one that was willing to hear any other party out. And to me, that's rather concerning in the grand scheme of things.
I mean, why was he forced out? Do you have a justification for that?
Yes, because he was told that they're going to file impeachment for dereliction of duty unless he steps down.
Wait. He's getting dereliction, but nobody else?
That's exactly my point, right? But what makes it, like, odd is that Hallow, in the meetings with the governor, was the one leading up to the governor arriving, and afterwards genuinely engaged with us and tried to understand our perspective. And I remember vividly when he was agreeing with the governor and he was walked outside. What's her name?
Hart. Yeah, by
Hart
Hart.
goes, we need to go talk outside. They go out. They are out there for 15, 20 minutes. They come back and he stops saying a word. And the only thing I can think at that moment is like, why are you holding on to this shred of power when you barely exist in San Andreas? You know what I mean? Like, it'd be one thing.
Also, he's by far the most trained, the most competent member.
Exactly.
Of the entire panel.
Yeah. The only one next to him is Hot, and she's the reason the Constitution got changed.
I mean,
do you know the background of
Hart's
this?
been around longer, but Hart. I mean, she spent as much time suspended as she has working. You know?
She sat in Soze's trial as one of the 3 justices in the one where
I think she was only
Bailey had to walk out because her and that other judge, I haven't seen him in a minute, Jackson made the statement that, well, this is actually, we need to be dismissing this case because of X, Y, and Z. And they're like, you know what? We're going to do it anyways. Anyways. Hold strong there, Grayson. I think there are some things that need to be done before my tenure is over. And I think we have some means by which we can do so.
You know what they say, a change or a break is as good as a rest. So I've had my rest. I'm back. I'm going to be, cleaning up the docket again because that's what I do. And then, just try and like one case at a time, and still some people are getting justice.
Yeah, 1000%. All right.
Well, you guys stay safe. I'm going to get back to work.
You take care.
Cheers.
If you need me, you know where I am.
Cheers.
I think we seriously, let's make our way to the hot dog stand. I think we should seriously consider this. I think it would be a reasonable thing to do. And perhaps it's necessary. And even if we can only get like 20% of the way, that at least is effort. And at least we can stand back and say, hey, at least we tried. You know?
Yeah. I think Grayson is quite right in his assessment that this is a solution that requires systemic change. So I'm going to ride with you if you're okay with that.
Yep, absolutely.